Well, we're here today with Dr. Fisher. And if you've been listening to FYI before, and I'm sure you have, you know that we are fortunate enough to get a quarterly update from her about COVID, among other things. So we've got lots of good news to share today, lots of things we want to update everyone on. So stay tuned. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Scan FYI. So as I mentioned, we are here today. We're so fortunate that we're able to bring you our quarterly update with Dr. Margaret Fisher. So Dr. Fisher, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And just in case someone is tuning in for the first time and hasn't seen you before, you do have a most marvelous title. So maybe just share that.
Sure. So I have a couple titles. So I'm a pediatric infectious disease subspecialist, and at Monmouth Medical Center, I'm now the medical director of clinical and academic excellence.
You got to think about that.
I had to think about it. And here in Trenton, I'm a special advisor to the New Jersey Commissioner of Health.
So again, thank you, Monmouth Medical Center, for hooking us up with Dr. Fisher. Really very appreciative for this opportunity. So first of all, Dr. Fisher, we're still in our, our COVID world, but we have some pretty good news that I know you want to share with everyone.
So for me, the good news is that as of yesterday, vaccines have started to arrive in New Jersey for children under 5 years of age. So we can now, because of the authorization of both the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine, we can now immunize children from 6 months to 5 years of age. So that is terrific news. We no longer have to leave anyone unprotected. So people should go ahead and go to covid.nj.gov to look to see how you can schedule an appointment to find out where the vaccines are available. And, please, this is an opportunity to get your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, all of those little people who before couldn't be protected can now be protected, except for the very youngest ones. But the good news on that is if a mother gets vaccinated during the pregnancy, then those babies are protected for the first 6 months.
Oh, all right. Well, that is good to know. I didn't realize that. That is excellent. Because, I have heard women say, the talk about this, even someone that I know, they didn't want to be vaccinated during their pregnancy. They were concerned, but obviously it's a good thing to be vaccinated during your pregnancy.
It's a very good thing. It's the safest thing to do for the mom, and it's the safest thing to do for the developing baby. So we know that pregnant women are at higher risk to get into trouble with COVID-19. And anytime a pregnant mom gets in trouble, that's trouble for her developing baby. So it's very important, protect the moms. And then that protection actually will go over to the baby, and then the baby will be protected from several months after birth.
Right. Very important. Good to know.
Yeah.
So Dr. Fisher, here we are. Summer just literally began, and can we let our guard down a little bit? What's your thinking about the summer?
So only a little bit. So if you're doing things outside, that's fantastic. You can definitely leave your guard down. You can leave your mask at home and not worry. But remember, wherever you're going, be careful about transportation there. So if you're in a car with 5 people you don't know and aren't vaccinated, and one of them's coughing, the ventilation in cars is not so great. So plus people tend to roll up their windows so that so the air conditioning will work. So be careful with that transportation part. Likewise, if your child's on a swim team or something like that, when they're especially an outdoor pool, that's great. They are just fine, no risk. But if the whole team goes in a minivan and all the windows are shut, that means that the whole team can share whatever, whether it's COVID or the common cold. I mean, they can share it all. So just keep that in mind. the other thing, we all get excited. It's summer. We're going to be out of doors. That's great. But remember, as soon as it starts getting really hot, where do we go? We go back inside in the air. And we have all the windows and doors shut because we don't want to waste the air conditioning. So when you're going back inside to get cooled off in the air conditioning, just be careful about how you do that. So I would say that, and unfortunately, what we know is there are still more than 3,000 new cases a day in New Jersey. If we look at, what's happening, if you go to the CDC website about community spread, Monmouth County is still in a pretty high level of spread. So it's not time to relax quite yet, particularly if you're at higher risk. So if you're like I am at higher risk because of my age, go get that second booster. If you're eligible, get a second booster. You don't have to worry about it. People say, well, maybe I'll wait until the fall. Well, it's not going to help if you get sick next week. You were waiting till the fall. So I would say whenever you're eligible for another shot, and the shots, now authorized by the FDA and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Go ahead and get vaccinated. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your children.
All right. You said something about like the swim team traveling in a minivan. It just made me remember Dr. Fisher, what's your feeling about public transportation, like a bus or a train?
So I think if you're not vaccinated and you're going to go on public transportation, you absolutely positively should wear a mask. And if you are vaccinated, but you're at high risk, you should wear a mask. So I keep my mask at hand. And if I'm on public transportation, this mask is on and it's over my nose and my mouth. So what I'm doing, of course, I'm protecting other people in case I'm infected and don't realize it. So then the virus would go into the mask and not out into the air. And also the air I'm breathing in is getting filtered by this mask. So if there's COVID-19 in the air, it's going to be on the outside of the mask. So very simple tool, but very important, particularly for high-risk people.
And I feel like, it's worth saying too, that wherever you go now, you should carry a mask with you. You may not need it for this place, but you may go somewhere else and you will need it. And you're going to be very unhappy if you don't have one. So.
Yeah, I think it's always a good idea to have it in a pocket or have it somewhere, that you have it at hand if you need it.
And if people are like me, you have a mask collection because, I can't find it. So I get another one. I can't, but that's okay. That's a collection I'm definitely okay with.
You bet.
So in addition to our COVID update, Dr. Fisher, here it is summertime, and I think it's really worthy talking about a few other things, especially having to do with sun protection, eye protection, skin protection, because let's be serious, skin cancer, it's rampant, unfortunately.
Yes, there is a lot of skin cancer out there, and there's a simple way we can protect ourselves, and that is sunscreen. So especially young children, but everybody, all ages, wear the sunscreen. And if you're fair, like I am, put a hat on. I actually wear long sleeves all summer because my skin's pretty sensitive. And I know the more I burn, the more chances that I'm going to develop some kind of skin cancer. So, cover up. You don't have to be completely covered, but if you're just sitting out reading a book, go ahead and cover up so that you get the nice warmth and the outside breezes, but you're not getting exposed to that UV light. And if you want to be exposed, go ahead, do it, but wear sunscreen and repeat that sunscreen. So if you're at a pool and you go swimming, remember you can wash off that protection. So remember to reapply it. And that's especially important for young children.
Do you see in skin cancer in young children, or is it something that kind of accumulates and then it shows up when you get to be our age?
Exactly right. So we rarely see skin cancer in a child, but all of that UV radiation is causing damage to your cells, and eventually that damage may result in a cancer.
Not to mention, everybody, a little vanity here, it's not good for your skin. Think about wrinkles. That's what you
It's a
don't
good
want to
point.
grow up and be a Shar-Pei. You don't want to look like a Shar-Pei.
It's
It's
a
not,
good point. Oh, look at those people who spend all their time out there,
yeah,
and boy, you can see they age more quickly.
your skin is like a wallet, and it's not good to look like an alligator
Yep.
on your face. No, but I mean, point well taken, that it's something you have to sort of, I believe, instill in young kids to have that respect for the sun and
Yes.
wear protection, because they might not see the damages until they're much older.
Yes. And, tanning salons really are a very bad idea, pretty much for everyone, but especially for children. There are some exceptions. For instance, psoriasis, there's some kind of light therapy that actually is good for psoriasis.
Okay.
But in general, tanning salons are not a good idea.
And what about eye protection, sunglasses?
So I think, if you're out there squinting, it's not doing you any good. Of course, we never want to look directly at the sun, but I think you wear sunglasses to make you more comfortable. And they also protect the skin around your eyes from burning. But I don't want anybody to burn, so I want you to have enough of the sun protection all the way around, even if you're wearing sunglasses.
So even now, I don't know, probably 20 years ago, I started buying moisturizer that has SPF 30 in it. So I mean, I wouldn't go to my mailbox without sun, because I've seen it in my own family, what years and years of unprotected out in the sun can do to your skin. And I just, I don't want it to happen to me. And, I can remember when I was a teenager, oh my God, remember putting baby oil on your skin. And I mean, you're like a porcelain doll. I'm not, but yeah, I think about all that now, and oh my God. But we know more, we know better, we do better. That's all I can say.
Well said. And a little bit of sun exposure is not bad, because we know that is a major way you get vitamin D
Yeah,
naturally.
yeah.
So 10 minutes without sunscreen is not a terrible idea. I wouldn't do it at noon, at high noon or 1 o'clock, but 10 minutes outside to soak up a little sun without screen works. But the problem is that 10 minutes sometimes turns into half an hour, and that's where you then can get into trouble.
And, I'm happy to see in recent years, for beach wear, for swimwear, they have, the long sleeve, like the UV protection shirts. And I think finally that's a good idea. I can think of going to the beach and you see the lifeguards, and usually they're, younger people. And some of them are so fair skinned. And I'm thinking, boy, that's the wrong summer job for you.
Yep. But I think you're right about those, the SP50 or SP40 shirts. They're a great idea, and the materials that they're made out of are really meant to keep you cool. So they don't, even though it's long sleeve and you think, oh, that's going to be too hot for me, it actually is not hot at all. In fact, it kind of reflects the sun, so it's actually a good thing to do.
And you won't look strange at the beach wearing that, because I see at the beach and pools and whatnot, I see it all the time now. And honestly, I feel good to see that, because it means people are getting smarter.
Exactly.
Is there any, so, for kids who might fuss about, putting this on their face, on their bodies, maybe what advice would you give parents and grandparents who want to take their kids to the beach or to the pool, but the little kid says, no, I don't want this on me?
So I think the same advice you give them for everything they do. You're the adult, you're the parent, you're calling the shots. So whatever you do to make them, not make them, but to help them make the best decisions, use that same tactic for the sunscreen. And for some people, it's, well, we're not going outside until you put it on.
Oh, okay.
And that usually works pretty well.
Because I think, again, it's important to say that as a kid, you won't see the effects of the sun, but you will go as you grow up. And then it's not, you can't reverse it, can you?
exactly right.
It's
It's too late then.
it's done. It's
Yep.
done. Yeah.
Yep, it's done.
Well, Dr. Fisher, any other summer thoughts that you want to share?
Oh, absolutely. You know, summer's a
Please.
wonderful time. People are out, people are doing things, people are active. One of the things that we see many children doing is riding their bikes more,
Yes.
and adults now. So
Yes.
everybody's becoming more active, and bike riding, we're seeing bike riding for everybody across the board. And it breaks my heart when I see people bike riding without helmets. So I don't care what
Yeah.
age you are. I don't care if you're 80. Even if you're 80, you should have double helmets on. But, you know, whatever age you are, your brain's important to you. It's, you know, for me, it's the most important organ in the body. So you need to protect it. So if you're either going to bicycle or if you're skateboarding, especially if you're doing skateboarding in one of those, you know, skate parks, please make sure your children are wearing helmets, make sure they fit properly. And helmets are not always looked at as cool, but it's another thing you just, you know, explain to them, this is something, you know, that you need to be doing to keep yourself safe.
Well, there's nothing cool about a brain injury or hitting your head. And I'm glad you mentioned too about adults, because honestly, I live in an adult community and there's a lot of bike riders. I would say I have yet to see a single person wear a helmet.
Yeah.
And what adults think they don't fall? Of course they do.
And, you know, I think we all know someone who's had severe traumatic brain injury from a bicycle, and most of them are adults, not necessarily children. I mean, it's a mix, but they're also not setting a good example. You know, when I see a family biking and the parents don't have helmets on, it's sort of like, yeah, I get it that you put them on your children, but isn't your brain important? So, you know, they should be setting the example.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yep.
But get out there and ride your bike. Definitely great exercise. It's great to be outdoors.
Yep.
Just wear a helmet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then swimming, you know, summer is time when everybody wants to swim. It's a great way to cool off. There's lots of things to remember. So even if you're in your backyard swimming, you know, if you have a pool, of course, it has to have a fence around it. You have to be very, very careful of young children around pools. Make sure that your house doesn't open directly onto the pool. That's one of the major ways children get into trouble. You know, the pool has a fence around it, but the one wall of the fence is the house.
Oh,
and it's got a door directly out to the pool.
Yes.
And, you know, children know how to open doors. So
yeah,
please be careful about making sure you know where your children are and that they're always guarded when they're in a swimming pool. And of course, it's always a great idea to try to teach them how to swim so that they will be able to take care of themselves. When you go to the beach, you know, the ocean is great, but pay attention to the signs. If there's a serious riptide, that's probably not the time that you want to, you know, teach your youngest children how to go into the ocean. So, you know, common sense, but as we know, unfortunately, common sense isn't so common. And then one other beach problem that people forget about, and that's sand. So we just recently had another tragedy where a child was buried under sand and died.
Oh my God. Yes, I know.
So the rule is, the lifeguard's rule is, you should never dig a hole that's deeper than your knee. So if you're a little child and your knee is, you know, short, that's as deep as your hole should be. And that way it really is almost impossible to suffocate. But when they dig these deep and they have overlying sand and then the sand collapses, nobody can get to the child quick enough to rescue them. So just be careful about sand.
And of course, that has to mean as parents, when you take your kids to the beach, you need to be watching them like hawks.
Of course.
Not just for the ocean, but that Dr. Fisher, that's a good point. Yeah. And unfortunately, you know, adults are equally guilty about digging those very deep holes in the sand, aren't they?
Sure, sure. Now make a castle. I love castles. Castles are so cool. It's fun to play with the castles and play with your children and making the castles. And, you know, you get the wet sand and make the little turrets and everything else. That's great. But just avoid those, you know, digging and making a tunnel. The tunnels are what's absolutely dangerous.
Oh, well, as you said, Dr. Fisher, common sense, not always very common.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Well, basically, I feel like we can enjoy our summer, reasonable care, carry a mask, wear a helmet, don't dig holes deep in the sand, wear your sunscreen. But those are just things that I feel like in any summer, for anyone, this is just good advice for everyone, people of all ages to adhere
Absolutely.
to, right?
Absolutely.
And if you haven't had your COVID shots, you need to get them.
Yep. And for the younger ones, remember, it's for the Pfizer shot, it's 3 shots. And for the Moderna, it's 2 shots. And they're separated by about a month. So it's a great idea to start early so you get them protected for the fall. So that, before they go back to school or back to childcare or whatever, try to get them protected now because it's going to take a little time.
You know what, something that I'm wondering, and obviously you're the perfect person to ask about this. So many people have gotten COVID who've had the shots, and fortunately it turned out to be, for the most part, relatively mild. They didn't have to be on a ventilator. They did recover. We know that there is medication now. But for folks who have somehow managed to totally avoid it, is it just lucky, or what do you think?
Well, it's pretty interesting. There was a study done not too long ago by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And what they showed was the younger children under age 5, 70% of them had evidence that they had been infected. Now, they're not immunized, so they're infected.
That's a high number.
It's a very high number. And they were the highest group. Why? Because they don't have as good control over their secretions. They may or may not wear their masks as well. And they love to hug and, they love to share their secretions. So, they just don't worry. The older people, though, if you looked at the 65 and older, it was only 33% that had evidence of having had the natural disease. And what they did was they looked for antibody that came from the infection, not the vaccine. So why? Why is that true of older people? Well, it's certainly not because our immune systems are better. It's because we protect ourselves better. We understand the risks and we take the appropriate measures.
All right,
so we get vaccinated, we get boosted, we wear a mask, we kept our distance when it was appropriate. Not everybody, of course, but we tried to minimize our risks. So I think that was, for me, that was very telling. And, it said, if you can't get a vaccine, you probably are really going to get this disease. So get the vaccine to protect yourself. And now you might turn around and say, well, wait a minute, if 70% are already infected, what's the big deal? Well, right now we have yet 2 new variants circulating, B4 and B5. We think and we know that they are not as easily fought off by either vaccine or natural immunity. So we know that we're continuing to see new cases all summer, and we're expecting it to even go up a little bit more in July, after July 4th and all the celebrations that go with July 4th. So, there's still stuff out there. So it really is very important to just pay attention and protect everyone that you can.
All right, do the best you can, people. That's all we can say, right?
Yep.
Do the best you can. Okay, well, Dr. Margaret Fisher, always a pleasure to have you on FYI. And once again, thank you so much for being with me today.
My pleasure, and I'll see you in the fall.
Yes, we will have the pleasure of Dr. Fisher's company again, well, after the summer, and we'll see how we did this summer. All right, remember, everyone, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone. Bye, Dr. Fisher.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.